Hi all. To those who follow the channel a bit more, you might have seen that there have been very little videos in the recent days. There are actually plenty of reasons for this, and these reasons have weighed me down a ton while making videos. And because of this, I intend to go on a summer vacation this year as well, where I won't make any videos for the entirety of June and July, and will be back sometime in August or September. But now on to the reasons. The amount of work. When I make videos, I need to plan what's the point, then potentially research the subject or practice movesets, get the vision on what's gonna happen and how it's gonna look, write the script on the voice lines or speeches, organize the potential filming crew for the day, then film or record the material, see if the materials match and make tweaks to correct if I got something wrong, then edit a ton, make a thumbnail, release the video, then market the video a lot. All of this is such a huge amount of work to do on my own. Takes a lot of time, and creative work in on itself requires a lot of energy, but this amount of work takes so much more energy than what I have capacity for even on a good day, let alone those bad days when I have very little energy to do anything. The lack of help. When I do all that work, it's a lot of pressure, and especially when I want my videos to have good quality, the details need to be correct. And when I do all of this alone, I'm bound to miss a ton of details that lower the quality and therefore make the videos seem chaotic, erratic, and possibly misleading. Because the only times I get help are when I order custom music from a friend, and maybe if I have someone filming me. And oftentimes I don't have a camera person with me, so I have to work with this kind of equipment. So it's not a lot, and since I'm poor, I can't afford a proper tripod or other equipment. Time. Each of these steps mentioned before takes enormous amounts of time in on itself, and I already have very limited time in a day because I have rehabilitating work 3 times a week, relationships to uphold, and other hobbies that also require a lot of work. Not to mention I have huge concentration issues that prevent me from working continuously, so whenever I work on any part of the project, I can't work on that particular task for long, and this makes the process drag on for so long. Not to mention that the projects keep on piling up, and the time keeps getting shorter and shorter how much I can make a project advance. So whenever a video comes out, there's a huge amount of work behind it. Bottleneck. Even though there's a huge amount of work that goes into the process, there are many parts of the process that are a lot easier to make. Coming up with the idea comes up almost in on itself. Writing is relatively easy. And editing is kinda easy since it's the thing that I have the most experience in the process. But the problem becomes in the midway, when I have to record the footage that's then to be edited. There's a lot of problems with this that makes it hard. If the footage is something to be filmed, then I have to gather and organize the film crew and schedule when and especially where to film the material. I'd also need to make a film script and let the camera people know what needs to be filmed and what angle, etc. Tons of work on your own. If it's gameplay footage, then to make it dynamic and hope that the game cooperates, which is oftentimes a considerable problem. But one thing I find the hardest is, weirdly enough, when I have to film footage of me sitting in front of the camera and talking to it on my own. I've performed to an audience of 1,000 people multiple times, streamed for years, but talking on my own to a camera? That's where my brain draws the line? Sheesh. Mostly it's the fact that I hate re-recording stuff, so I think to myself that the footage must succeed and must be perfect. So currently I have a ton of scripts ready, but they are stuck in a limbo since I don't record any new footage for new videos that often. Mental health issues. If all the work in on itself wasn't hard enough for one man to carry on my shoulders, there's also the fact that I've suffered from depression for decades, which causes me to get discouraged about proceeding with my plans, goals, and dreams. A flaring ADHD that causes concentration issues, trouble remembering things, and problems with motivation if the project becomes unusually long. And since depression oftentimes causes energy levels for certain days to be lower than usual, it might often cause me to just not get anything done for the whole day. Not to mention that this in on itself creates stress, which then causes trouble sleeping and eating, which then causes stress that hampers the project itself, and there causes stress where the project is prolonged, and since perfectionism is also present, I lash myself way too much since I can't do alone what other bigger names do with their creative teams, own studios and offices, officially employed camera crew and paid editors do. Which is absolutely ridiculous to think like that. But since YouTube is a system that doesn't care and only rewards unfinished products, in this case the published videos, I stress over getting stuff done. Martial arts community is super demanding. I've been training martial arts for ages now, but only recently began flashing the idea of making videos related to them. You'd think that the martial arts community would be friendly with the discipline, good mentality, and all that positive philosophy behind martial arts. Sadly, mostly no. Sure, there are a lot of good people, but mainly in the internet there are those who constantly cringe over nearly everything martial arts related, those who criticize even the slightest mistakes, those who don't understand the difference between entertainment, training, and actual fighting, and then there are the reaction channels. Oftentimes the big channels that have the experienced martial artists whose communities flood them with clips of bullshito and McDojo stuff for them to react, shame, and criticize. And because the content demands big reactions, they cringe so hard on a lot of stuff, and this shows as a professional opinion to a lot of people who don't know better. So it's nice to try and make martial arts related content while trying to dodge the bullshito and McDojo label, so I don't end up on some big names reaction video and thumbnail. But since all the time working on videos, going to work and sometimes streaming take up all the time, there's really no time to train anymore as well. So the time for actual training nowadays is awfully minimal, which I think shows in the videos. The internet is cruel. Everything already exists in the internet. Everything has been done a decade or decades ago, so originality in the internet is really rare, and people love to see originality, personality, and high quality. And to make it so people would see your videos, oftentimes all those boxes need to be checked. Not always, but very often. And sure, I can hear some of you say that you need to do this for fun, which I am. But there's a big difference in keeping a diary for yourself and then broadcasting something for others to see. Not to mention that it is easy to gain the cringe label with the content that I do, which I can deal with. I've dealt it with my whole life overall, being this weird kid who likes ninjas, and nowadays a grown man who still likes ninjas. But if it racks too much dislikes, it could affect on the video not being shown to the algorithm. And since people want high quality and easily drop out if the production value isn't top notch, or the thoughts and content aren't as informative or thoroughly researched, it puts a lot of pressure on a guy who does stuff single-handedly with a malfunctioning brain. A lot of this text sounds like whining and complaining of a loser who hasn't been able to break through. And you're right, I'm slightly bitter for everyone else making way better content than people want to watch. But this is also a sign that I'm exhausted to the brink of burnout, which is why I'm going on a longer break and continuing my work somewhere around August or September, depending on how I feel. I'm grateful for all the support I've received so far, and I'm very eager to continue again in a few months, since there are so many different and new ideas I'm working on that I hope you will like. But now, I just need rest, and a lot of it. So I hope you guys have a great summer. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to take it easy as well, stay vigilant, and I'll see you after summer.